Okay, fourth time is the charm. Let's hope. Yep. Okay.
All right.
Cheers.
Good luck. Cheers. We've tried this 4 times.
Yes, we're very sorry.
We keep hearing beeps and then it just shuts off. But oh my God. Okay, we didn't get that before.
Now we see people.
Amy's here.
Woo!
Can you hear us, girl? Is the sound okay? Give us a thumbs up. Yay.
No,
okay, this is better.
Okay. This is great.
All right, I think we did it.
All right, let us know if you can hear us, please. And so hopefully we don't have to restart. Let's just charge in. Okay. Hi.
Go.
Hello, everybody. My name is Karen Boite.
Hi,
I am a part of the Ontario Autism Coalition, and this is...
I'm Laura. I'm the mom of 2 kids with autism, and around here I somehow found myself as president of this amazing organization.
Poor girl. Poor thing. So from time to time, we do some Facebook Lives to talk about the issues of the day and also to talk about what the Ontario Autism Coalition is up to. Laura, we haven't heard from you in a while.
Yeah, so I wanted to address that, not to make excuses, but just to explain. So we have an expression in the OAC. I think Bruce was the one that coined it, and he's over there in the corner tonight. He's my chauffeur because I was up all night doing panel work, but that's another thing. Anyway, I haven't been around a lot lately. I came down with a pretty severe case of vertigo in August. And for those of you that don't know, it's like, basically it's just dizziness, but like really intense and a lot of fatigue. And I've actually been off work. I haven't returned to the classroom yet this year because I'm still wobbly. And so that was really, really debilitating. And, you know, stayed in bed a lot, wanting to get things done, but just couldn't get up. And then my dad's health has been declining over the last year or so, and sadly a couple of weeks ago we lost him and he passed away. So personal stuff has been going on, and you've had some stuff going on too.
Yeah, me too. So, you know, life continues.
It does.
Right?
It does.
And we are a volunteer organization, and so sometimes we're able to put a lot of time and effort into the OAC, and sometimes people have to take breaks.
Yeah.
So here we are.
But I'm back.
She's back. Welcome back.
Feeling a little better, not 100%.
Yeah.
But definitely ready to get back in the game and get some things done.
Okay.
So let's go.
Ready to push on?
Yeah.
All right. So I have a proposal, which is that
I'm already married, you know.
I'm not going to go there.
I was waiting for the comeback.
I'm not
there.
going there. I'm not going there.
You know what just happened? She just held back
I
like
just
4 things she thought of saying.
I just censored myself.
That was a lot of self. I saw it all. Like it went across your face in waves.
That's because I want to push on. It's 9 o'clock on a weeknight. It's a school night. You know, I mean, we've got our Diet Coke.
Yeah. What are you drinking tonight?
Diet Coke.
We got Diet Coke. We got the
caffeine. You've got your, what is that?
I've got the remnants of an ice cap.
Of an ice cap. And then, of course,
we've got the
wine. So depending on the topic.
And also, should I mention, I've had an hour and a half sleep in the last some period of time. So
excellent.
Usually my students know that when I come into class and I haven't had enough sleep, it's going to be a really funny class. So this could go anyway.
So let's push on.
Popcorn.
So my proposal is I'd like to cut the hour into 15-minute sections. And what I'm seeing on the page are 4 topics turning around over and over and over again, right?
Yeah.
First and foremost, the Autism Panel. That is something that you know an awful lot about.
I do.
Right? And I'd like to spend about 15 minutes poking Laura. Maybe I should start with the wine first. Maybe she'll have a lack of judgment every once in a while and spill more than she's allowed to. I don't know. Maybe I should have waited till the end. But anyway, so let's talk about the Autism Panel for 15 minutes.
Sure.
Then I'd like to touch on the federal election.
Yeah.
Technically, it's not our expertise.
Right.
But obviously,
we've kind of gotten pulled into it.
We have gotten pulled in a little bit, at least in terms of speaking up about one particular aspect of the federal election. Then I would like to discuss CUPE's averted strike and a potential teacher strike that we're looking at
from my union.
Yeah, from OSSTF. And then the fourth topic for 15 minutes, I'd like to just look at the general questions that people have sent us today and also look at what people are posting live. Please feel free to post live. This is meant to be a two-way conversation, albeit we're the ones with the megaphones and we have the final say over what we're discussing. But it's meant to reach out. It's not meant to be a television broadcast. We ain't professionals. We're just moms. And this is the cheapest way and the easiest way we can think of to reach as many people as possible.
Well, and it's interesting because it's a medium that I see more and more advocacy groups adopting. It's worked well with us. I'm not saying we pioneered it or anything like that.
Maybe we did.
Maybe we did.
I don't know.
So let me start.
You start, and I'm gonna find my timer.
Okay, let's go. So what can I tell you about the panel? I am bursting to tell you so many things about the panel, but I can't. I signed a non-disclosure agreement and I am really limited in what I can say. Some of you will have seen this document that I put up, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, that was an update from our two co-chairs, Mark Spolstra and Marie Butriani. And you
so who are those ladies?
So Marie Butriani is a former minister of Children and Youth Services under Dalton McGuinty. She was actually the minister when the OAP was created. And Mark Spolstra, of course, is the executive director of Autism Ontario. So they are our two co-chairs. Sorry?
The OAP was created under Mike Harris.
Oh, true. Sorry, the OAP was created before Marie Butriani was in place, but she was the first.
We have a fact checker in the corner who's keeping us honest. Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, so.
All right, shush.
Yeah. So those are our two co-chairs, and if you want to see all of the panel members, I'm sure a lot of you have checked this already. It's on the OAP website, and what I am able to share is that, I'll just read from the statement. While our regularly scheduled panel meetings have concluded, so we had 17 meetings over the course of the summer, we wanted to take this opportunity to update the community on our work. Our panel is in the drafting phase of our final report. That was a few weeks ago. We are a little further along than that now, but our work is taking slightly longer than expected. Yada, 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 yada. Long story short, our panel should go to the minister by early November. How quickly the minister will then accept the report and then make an announcement, that depends on, his political advisors and the legislative schedule of the government, and whether they want to do things like get approval for the budget for the OAP pushed through Treasury Board before making the announcement. Which, Bruce, is that something that they usually do, is try to get Treasury Board approval before announcing a policy?
Yes.
Bruce says yes.
Yes, he does. So, I'm in an awkward spot here. I totally feel the weight of the community on my shoulders and the sense of urgency and the need to get to the next phase. I mean, it seems sometimes as a community that all we do is wait, and we're constantly being asked to wait some more. And I've gotten in the habit of, when I'm talking to political staffers, of saying to them, look, you guys really have to get into a pattern of under-promising and over-delivering with this community, because we've been let down so many times. We're really at the say. So when first we were told, okay, the recommendations will be done at the end of August, and then we were told September, now it's the mid-October, now we're being told November. Of course people are losing their minds, and they have every right to.
Absolutely. How many autism panels have we had prior to this one?
That's a great question. It depends on which type of panels you're talking about. So under the previous Liberal government, there was an implementation committee that Bruce sat on, and there was also a clinical expert committee. How many committees there were before that, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what you're driving at is we've been through this process before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one of my many sources of frustration in all of this is, it didn't have to be this way. We could have just worked with the old program and made major, some minor adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
But instead, Lisa MacLeod just lifted up the whole program and smashed it on the floor and broke it into a million pieces. And so what we're really doing is rebuilding and creating something new. So that's taking a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the only other thing that I can say about the report is that I feel really good about it. I feel really positive about it. I think it's a report that when we finally get it and we land on the final wording, it's a report that I'll be proud to stand behind. And I'll tell you my biggest fear about what may happen when it's released. I'm worried that as a community, we've been in battle mode for so long, and we've been angry for so long,
Mm-hmm.
that we may just default to that mode when the report comes out and
Mm-hmm.
pick on one or two things and decide to be furious about it and, get out the pitchforks again. I really want to encourage people when this report comes out to breathe, to really take a good look at it, read it thoroughly. At
Mm-hmm.
that point, hopefully I'll be allowed to answer more questions,
Mm-hmm.
not about who said what in the panel room, because that's not appropriate, but what do we mean in the report when we say this?
Yeah.
And what were we thinking as we made this decision?
Mm-hmm.
But I think we're headed to a much better place. It's not going to be easy transit. When you think about it, the autism program has had overhauls 5, 6, 7 times.
Mm.
The poor bureaucrats that work at the Ministry of Community and Children and Social Services are exhausted. They've had so many times where they've had to redo, a frequently asked questions chart about, so, okay, now how does this version of the program work? And they're going to have to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
But I think where we're going, I can see it on the horizon.
Mm-hmm.
But it's when I say when I talk about seeing it on the horizon, I see it in the same way that I had a vision when I was the mother of 2 toddlers under the age of 5. And I remember getting into my car and breaking into a sweat as I packed the stroller and the car seat and the diaper bag and all of the stuff into the van, and sat there in my front seat sweating, and then watched some lady in a minivan walk out, go beep beep, and her door opened automatically, and her 2 teenagers got in and they buckled themselves and she drove away. And I thought,
yeah, what is this magic?
Cruelest
the
things
cruelest thing
about that woman. So it's off in the distance, but that's not much comfort.
So I
when
wish
you're in
I
the
was as
moment.
optimistic as you are. Of course, I don't have the benefit of having been in the room with a
Yeah.
whole bunch of experts and intelligent people debating the OAP.
Yeah.
And my memory is not as long as yours. It only goes 3 years back.
Right.
And what I remember is an expert panel
Yes.
coming out with a big, huge document.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Wynne government at that time
Warped it.
co-opting the
Yeah.
expertise and cherry-picking pieces of that report and declaring that services would not be effective for children over the age of 5.
Yeah.
And thereby tried to cut the program. What are you looking at?
I'm just looking at the questions that have
Yeah.
come in so far. So
Let me just ask you this question.
Sure.
So what makes you so optimistic that it's one thing to have a panel, it's one thing to have people sit down and try to discuss and agree on a good solid program. It's another thing for the government to implement that program.
yes.
So do you have confidence that this particular team is going to take the recommendations of the panel and
I think so. I don't impress easily when it comes to ministers and political staffers in ministers' offices. But I will say this: Todd Smith's chief of staff impresses the hell out of me.
We couldn't say that about.
Well, we could actually under
about
the previous minister's chief of staff.
Likely not the case.
Yeah, no, but no. This person is really, really good to work with. I think there is a directive from the Premier's office, and we got there with the Liberals as well, to just fix this, make it better, not just make it go away, make it better. And the other people that really impress me are some of the civil servants that work on the autism team who have just been they've been putting in more hours than the panel members on all of this. So there will likely have to be some kind of implementation committee again. I don't know. That's up to the minister. But what I guess we need to prepare the community for is that we'll be moving from one phase into another. So we were activists, we were asking for change, we were making noise. Then we went in and said, this is what we want, and we went into the lobbying phase. The next phase is monitoring. It's working together as a community to hold the government accountable for the proper implementation of the new program. And one of the things that the OAC can do quite effectively is speak truth to power about those gaps that may exist between the lovely words that inevitably will be in our report and then what happens on the ground. If it's breaking down somewhere along the chain, we'll be the voices that will bring that back to government and say, excuse me, you said this and this and this weren't going to happen, but we see it happening.
So Carrie Bonahan says, can you comment on whether or not the ministry reps were present in the panel meetings? Does the ministry have a sense of the panel's recommendations even before an official report has been submitted?
I can't comment on that, and I can't say much more than I have. Matthew, I don't know how long you've been here, but I read a second ago from the update statement just about when the recommendations are going to come out, and I'm just trying to keep my comments at a high level.
Yeah, I'm the one working her.
Yeah, I know.
Alina said, let me read some things that some people have asked some questions, and I want to read them, and we'll see whether or not Laura can respond. But I think that they reflect the concerns in the community greatly.
Sure.
So Alina says, please ask her about what, if anything, the panel has done to address the autism service capacity crisis in the North. We can't even get diagnostics now. I think she means diagnosis. Also, what special considerations did they recommend for the North? Because as they can see, the models designed for the south of the province will not work here. Please.
I absolutely hear everything you're saying on this, and I would love to tell you about what's in the report about the North. I can't do that
yet. When are you going to do this? When are you going to share more details?
It's not my job to share the report. The report will be released, and then the community will be able to read it for themselves, and then we can have conversations after that.
Yeah.
But even then, my ability to comment is somewhat limited. I won't ever talk about what went on in the panel room. I can talk about the words that are in the report once those words are made public, but it's not my place to release or to tease out the report.
Right. And Laura has committed to doing a Facebook Live specifically about the panel, and another panel member has agreed to join us, and we'll be able to go through it paragraph by paragraph. It'll be kind of boring,
that'd take like 6 hours. Okay,
maybe page by page. Anyway, we'll be able to go through it. Think of it like a reading club, like a book club.
Yeah.
We can do that, and we'd be happy to do that, because I always need Laura to explain these things to me, quite honestly. Lucia.
Hi, Clara.
Lucia says, my question, should I just give up hope? of even receiving the family budget invite? Because I have.
Oh, Lucia, I've been right where you are, where you think just you're never, ever, ever going to get that funding. I would say don't give up hope, but I also don't have anything specific to tell you about when you individually might receive yours. I can tell you that I know a little bit about how they're trying to prioritize the budget checks that they're sending out. So I know that there's been an emphasis on kids that are 17 and are about to age out of the program. There's been an emphasis on those kids that are 5 and are in their last year of eligibility for the 20K. And there's also been emphasis on the kids that have been waiting the longest. Other than that, I think there's some algorithms in place, and I don't really know much more than that.
Right. I have another question from Michelle. And
Sure.
Alina, I'm sorry I didn't read your question very well. Sorry about that. I see your note. Michelle, I had also given up. I totally have given up also. This is in response to Lucia. But I just received it. So they're still going out. It's just completely ridiculous that we don't know how or in what order.
Right.
So Laura alluded to this. This seems so weird to me. It feels so random. Like they're kids at 17, the kids are at 5. It's not first come, first serve.
I know. It feels like a lottery, doesn't it? It feels like the Hunger Games.
Yeah, it does feel like the Hunger Games.
I know. But I mean, if there's anything good to come out of this, I would say it's that the message that our community wants nothing to do with a system of childhood budget checks. Oh, that was supposed to be our discussion of the panel, and we already passed through that.
Yep, that's our 15 minutes.
Okay, I like that.
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's our 15 minutes.
Anyhow, what was the end of that thought? The good thing is that the message that childhood budgets are not what this community wants has been received. The decision was made to continue sending out childhood budget checks until the new program was in place. You're free to agree or disagree with that decision, but that was the choice that was made. And so, I mean, I know a year seems like a year is an eternity when you've got particularly a young kid, but this time next year we will be in a very, very different place, I believe.
I'm glad you believe that. I mean, we've heard this before.
I know.
Right? And there are a lot of people out there.
I really do believe it, though.
Do I believe it? I'll believe it when I see it. I'll be really honest with you. I'll believe it when I see it.
That's fair.
And that's not to negate your hard work and all of the hard work of the people who have really dedicated an incredible amount of time to the panel and other kinds of advocacy.
Oh yeah, I mean the work. I want to just say a thank you to all the people that have stepped up in their leadership while I've been kind of away dealing with personal issues. I mean, you look at the fantastic group of people in Ottawa, in the North. Shout out to the Durham crew. You know, the Chicks and the Six. Like they've all been stepping up and making stuff happen. Yeah. And that's really what it's all about. I think my faith in faith is another person I have faith in. You gotta have faith.
Cheers to faith.
Cheers to faith. Absolutely. Okay, we're mixing our stuff, but whatever. But I think it comes from the knowledge that with or without me or Bruce or any of the sort of old guard leadership, and I don't put you in that category yet. I'm
going to resign tomorrow.
Yeah, no, you can't. But, you know, the government knows, and not just this government, but all of the political parties at Queen's Park know damn well, if they don't do this right, then we will light stuff on fire, metaphorically, and not threatening violence, but like, so we know
the shit's gonna hit the fan.
So they know that they have exactly one more chance to get it right, and then any government that comes in again and tries to mess with this doesn't want to incur our wrath. And the fact that our issue has kind of jumped into the federal sphere is a tribute to just how relentless all of you guys have been.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where my faith comes.
Hats
It
off.
doesn't come from faith in the government. It comes from faith in us, if
Yeah.
that makes sense.
Yes, yes, and there I share that.
Okay.
I take an awful lot of inspiration. I was pretty discouraged when they blew up the program.
Oh, I was devastated.
And I thought, wow, you know, so many parents are not going to know what my child received in service, and children are not going to have that experience, and I just couldn't stand it, like so many of us, which is why we're in this fight.
Yeah.
I want to move on to the next thing, but just maybe
Sure.
a couple more questions. Shauna says, I've been fighting since my son was 2. He's now 9, and to date he has received no autism services. I as well have given up hope that I will ever receive any services in the most crucial time frame for therapy. Francesca says, ask what they plan on doing with all the children that are missing services and will someday become adults. Everybody says early intervention is the key, yet they cut back services that would provide those early interventions. And group homes for our adults have long waiting lists. If they don't deal with the children, they will have bigger problems in dealing with adults.
Yeah. So both of you, Shauna and Francesca, sort of, you echo a lot of the things that were written in a report produced by the Senate back in 2007 called "Pay Now or Pay Later."
That's a good read.
It is a very good read.
Yeah.
I read it with sort of two lenses. One is like, wow, this was groundbreaking for 2007. The other is like, holy shit, we already said all of these things back in 2007, and so much of it still isn't in place. Yeah. I want to tell Shauna not to give up hope. I do think that you will receive some services, and can I just say how painful it is to know things as a panel member and not be able to share them? Like, it's physically,
it's not painful for me because I don't know anything. I'm just sitting here bitter and
but you know,
crippled.
and like Francesca's talking about early intervention, and there's like,
well,
stay tuned.
it's actually very good that you can't say much, and you can't say anything.
Can't.
Because I don't think you want to be in a position to give anybody false hope, because
I don't.
Seeing is believing. We're going to have to see.
Yeah.
We're going to have to see, and with the full knowledge that this particular administration has wasted a year, now 2 years of families' lives. That's not nothing.
And
you can't get that back. You can't pay that back.
At the risk of using some of our community's trigger words, let me be perfectly clear.
Yeah.
I will never forgive Lisa McLeod for what she did.
Had to say her name.
I'm sorry. She who shall not be named.
She who shall not be
named. I will
named.
never forgive her for the time that our children have lost, for the pain that our families have gone through, for the money that has been saved on the backs of disabled children, for the lies that were told, for the personal attacks on individuals and on our community. It's, I mean, the other thing too is that as president of the OEC, I was so looking forward at the beginning of this year to turning our focus more to education and adult services. And instead, we've lost the last 10 months talking about autism as a children's issue again. And of course, we're not talking about what Melanie wants to talk about, which is the kids that grow
So let's
up.
move into that, right? So Melanie, this is a wonderful question, Melanie. Thoughts on how to strongly advocate. So this is give us a little advice. Your kids are older than mine, and many of us are blah, blah, blah. Okay, so Melanie says, thoughts on how to strongly advocate for, is it TAY kids or TAY kids?
TAY, transitionally aged youth.
Transitionally aged youth that are not children and not adults, just stuck in the middle, wasting away.
Yeah.
People really never talk or consider this age group.
It's true. And
We get some flack
We do.
for not addressing these issues and not addressing issues that concern adults.
Well, we get flack for a lot of things that we don't
get a lot
do.
of flack.
We get a lot of flack.
We get a lot of flack, you guys.
We get it's your salmon story, right?
Yeah.
We get a lot of people coming over to the house going, "That's nice that you prepared 2 dishes for me, but what I want is this." And to everybody that says, "Why doesn't the OAC do this or this or this?" I say, please join, and you can lead that initiative. But we are stretched as thin as we can possibly be stretched, and until such time as we have new volunteers in place, we can't take on those things.
It's the cold, hard, simple truth of it. It's not a question of not wanting to. It's a question of having to come back to this goddamn program.
Yeah.
Again and again.
It feels like
again.
It feels like literally I'm in the movie Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
Except this time, instead of fighting the Liberals, I'm fighting the Conservatives, and they're a lot meaner.
So Melanie says, any tips on self-care? What's worked best for you?
So learning self-care was a process. I think really what a lot of autism parents run into trouble with is that we spend so much time and energy advocating for our kids that we neglect ourselves. And something that really helped me shift my thinking was because there's something about self-care that feels self-indulgent. Mm-hmm. You feel guilty. You know, I leave my kid with a respite worker and I go for a massage. Like, who do I think I am, the Queen of Sheba? How dare I have a massage when I could be teaching my kid, working on some skills, cleaning the house. But if you neglect self-care, your health deteriorates, and then you can't care for your family.
Yeah.
And so self-care is part of helping your family. And when I flipped that switch in my head, I learned how to do things like grabbing 5 minutes alone, because sometimes that's the most you can. 2 minutes is good. Mm-hmm. Even things like, this is awful, getting my kids into the car, strapping them in, putting the car seats, making sure the windows are rolled down, and just walking behind the car and breathing for 2 minutes before I got in and started to drive. I was just like, okay, they're locked in. They're not punching each other. And you just center and you go, you just grab what you can. And then, you know, things like Self-Care Saturday, just having conversations online with people about like, what do you do to keep yourself from not going crazy? Yeah. Melanie, I want to come back to how you advocate for transitionally aged youth. You need to get up to sort of a different level in care. You're right, because you're stuck between children's services and adult services. But maybe message me directly, and depending on where in the province you are, there are some agencies that work on transitioning, and there's a whole process that you need to follow. Once your kid hits about 16, you really have to start the planning process for adulthood. You have to file for passport, you have to file for ODSP, you have to get ready for a whole bunch of things. Mm-hmm.
And these things take quite a long time, don't they?
Well, yeah, 18 comes like that.
Yeah.
Like it really sneaks up on you.
Let's move on to the federal election.
Sure.
So I didn't get any questions about the federal election, but there has been a lot today. Eugene Levy, the big movie star and TV star, came out in support of, is it 9 families who are suing the provincial government?
I don't remember the number of families, but that sounds about right. Yeah, these are the original warriors.
Yeah.
And I was saying in a group chat earlier that these families are really the ones on whose shoulders we stand as the OAC. Back in the early 2000s, when the autism program cut kids off from therapy at age 6, not age 5. So this is going back to like 2005.
17 years ago now.
Yeah. They brought a class action against the government alleging discrimination on the basis of age and on disability. And they took their case all the way up to the Ontario Court of Appeal, lost, but as part of a settlement got funding arrangements for their kids all of whom were really severely affected and like quite self-injurious. And those agreements were to continue on into adulthood. And then out of nowhere this spring, the government sent them letters and said, oh, no, sorry, we're not doing that. And so they're raising their voice, not only for their own funding for their individual kids, but they're adding, I think, their voices to the broader fight as well. So that's really welcome to see.
How effective was their fight 17 years ago? You say we stand on their shoulders.
We really do, because I think one of the things that happened at that time is that you had two groups coming at the government in different directions. So they were the first really to move in the legal courts, and then we rallied in the court of public opinion. And what happened was, as a result of their advocacy coupled with ours, even when the government got the ruling that they wanted from the Ontario Court of Appeal, essentially saying, yeah, if you want to cut kids off at age 6, that's your prerogative, you're the government, you can make those financial decisions. By that point, we had pushed them into a political corner where they were so tight that they didn't do it. And our son is one of the ones that benefited from that wave, because he got funding while that case was moving up. And so once that collaboration had happened, then it was easier to go forward. And then when the 2016 fight came along, away you go. I think there's a time and a place for legal advocacy. I've always felt that my skills are better suited to political advocacy, but I've always had intense admiration for people like the Weinberg families and the Beth Skirts and the Lisa Kahns, who take our issues forward to the human rights tribunals and to other courts. It's a monumental task, and an absolutely thankless and expensive one.
I've heard you say a couple of times that you could be an activist in politics, or you can go to court, and you should never do both.
I could be wrong about that.
Yeah.
I think really, I mean, I'll just speak for me. There may be a superhero out there yet
There are some superheroes
who's
out
able
there.
to do both. I mean, you look at Beth and Lisa, and they're doing both just fine. And I'm sitting here going, okay. Right? Yeah, you look at David Lepofsky, who's worked as a disability advocate for
He's going to do
years.
a Facebook Live for us, by the way.
Yes, and some exciting stuff on the horizon with our collaboration with them.
So with the federal election, the longer I hang out in this community, the more confused I become.
Yes.
With how to address things and what to address, because this is a very complicated world that we live in, with so many stakeholders, so many players in the game.
Yeah.
So can you put on your civic teacher hat here, okay, and explain to me what are provinces responsible in terms of social services, and what is the federal government, so in other words, the big country, the whole country, what is that government responsible for in terms of administering social services?
That's a really good question, and there's
I know that there's overlap. I know that there's
the overlap that's
confusing. Okay, but can you give me a little Canada 101?
Sure.
So the federal government
in 30 seconds.
In 30 seconds.
Is in charge of things that affect the whole country, like immigration. It would be weird if Manitoba's immigration laws were different from Saskatchewan's. Criminal law. We have criminal law consistent across the country. Currency. The armed forces. Those types of things. Provincial responsibilities, the two biggest ones are education and healthcare, but also delivery of social services. And then municipal government, more local things like parks and recreation, recycling and composting, libraries, community centers, roads. There is, though, a lot of overlap between the two. And autism is one of those areas where there's a role to be played really by all three levels of government, if you think about it. The main one, though, and the reason the OAC has always pitched its advocacy efforts at the provincial level, is that the autism program, as we've always known it, is a provincial program. There have been those who have been advocating for years for Medicare for autism, and they want to see changes made to the Canada Health
And
Act.
Medicare is a general term for what we refer to in Ontario as OHIP, but in other provinces it's called other things, right?
So this is one of those areas where it does get confusing, because there's the Canada Health Act.
Yes.
And the federal government transfers huge amounts of money to the provinces to be spent on healthcare. And sometimes they envelope that money and say, spend this part on this. But the actual delivery of that healthcare is the responsibility of the provincial government. So this is where things sometimes get crossed. So the OAC has always advocated at the provincial level, but there have been groups, and there continue to be groups, that advocate federally who say, we want Medicare for autism. My attitude towards those groups has always been, hey, you go. If you get to the top of the mountain first, I'll high five you.
Bravo.
You go.
Bravo.
I can't take that on and this.
Yeah.
But where we have been pulled in the last month or so, the OAC, I feel, has really been pulled into the conversation about a national autism strategy.
Sure, well, it's on people's minds.
It is, and a lot of our members are calling for it.
Yeah.
A lot of other key stakeholder groups are calling for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that's been in the conversation at the federal level for 10 years. And again, because the OAC punches above its weight,
all
like,
the time.
we really look a lot bigger than we are. Like, y'all know that we don't have an office, right?
Yeah.
And we don't have a staff, and we don't
We don't have a phone.
No, like, you can call me. Or
Yeah, you can call me.
You can call Karen.
You can message me anytime you want.
But people think we're this big thing, and that
Yeah.
we're on a par with some of these other organizations. And
That's because we're good at what we do.
well, we are. To toot our own horn,
Yeah,
what
toot.
our secret has been that we do protesting really well, but we also do advocacy really well. And there's a lot of groups that do one or the other. So they lobby, but they never protest, or they protest, but they never lobby. We do both.
Or they take money.
Or they take money. That's another thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, to loop this back to
Right. So
the discussion of the federal and provincial
in terms
government.
of
Did I cover
the
that?
flow, yes. In
Yeah.
terms of the flow of money.
Yes.
Okay. So the federal government sends. I'm curious about accountability and
Mhm.
how this is all tracked. Right. I learned from you in how school boards administer their money, and that was quite an education. We could go back
That's
and
a
visit
whole
that
other
one
thing.
day. But one of the things I learned is that the province will delineate certain amount of money for certain amounts of programs, and school boards are not.
They're not accountable.
They're not accountable.
I know.
They can take that money and spend it any way they wish, regardless of what the province says and how many press releases they send out and how many
times they
announcements
re-announce
make.
the same money.
Re-announce the same money over and over.
Absolutely.
So, is it similar in terms of money coming from the federal government? Like,
yes.
who's accountable? Like, how does this all work? Do you know how this works?
So, if you're talking
I need
about
wine.
more wine.
Okay, go.
If you're talking about the OAP, the funding is it comes out of the provincial budget. There's no money that's transferred from the feds to cover the OAP. If they wanted to start doing that, I would be totally in favor, but I don't expect it anytime soon.
Yeah.
Where we get into a conversation about a national autism strategy, and the reason why I think these voices have gotten so loud is that there is a role for federal leadership on this issue. And I think, if anything, what's happened here in Ontario has been a warning to other provinces that, your social programs are so fragile that they literally can be, turned upside down just because of an election. And maybe we need the feds to say, hey, that's not okay.
Mm-hmm.
Some places where the federal government can stick their nose in would be issues that are really important, in particular to adults with autism. So I'm talking about issues like employment, right? The employment numbers for adults with autism are appalling. It's 86% unemployment, according to a study that I saw. And the government has more that it could do to provide housing for people on the spectrum. There's a lot that the federal government can do in terms of research, establishing centers of excellence and encouraging research, not into causes and cures of autism, I'm not into that, but into the efficacy of particular treatments, the design of certain programs, what works and what doesn't. And then just looking at encouraging governments to work together. We don't want a situation, I want Ontario to create the best autism program in North America, but I don't want it to do so at the expense of like Nova Scotia or Manitoba. And I don't want a situation, because we've had it before, where autism services in Ontario were so bad that people were leaving. We did a press conference once with families that were leaving and heading to Alberta because the services were better there. We called them autism refugees. So we don't want that again, and the federal government has a role to play there. So that's part of how we kind of got pulled into this conversation about a national autism strategy. And there's great work that's been done by CASDA, the Canadian ASD Alliance, and they've been working on this for years. They've done consultations with thousands of people, including self-advocates and clinicians and researchers and advocacy groups. And they've come up with a blueprint for a national autism strategy. And speaking just as myself, not as president of the OAC, I quite like it as a framework for a national autism strategy.
Matthew brings in a good question, or a good point. Unless all provinces and territories agree, no changes can be made to the Canada Health Act.
That's right.
So in order for us to make real changes to the Canada Health Act, this would be an enormous initiative.
Well, and that's why I've always thought that it was best for us to sort of keep our nose out of that.
Well, we're stuck with this damn OAP fight again and again and again, and expanding into this huge platform of issues.
Well, I feel like every time we finish one thing and we go to like the next part of this advocacy journey as an organization, I feel like I'm staring at taller and taller buildings. So like, it's one thing to go to the Ministry of Children and Community and Social Services. Like I know that building, the old building, the new one. I can look up at that building and go, okay, I can handle what goes on in that building.
That's not so scary.
Then I go to the Ministry of Education and I'm like, who the hell do I think I am even trying to advocate for education issues? Then I think about adult issues and all of the need for interministerial collaboration. And then someone says, why aren't you advocating on federal issues too? And I'm just like,
oh my God.
So we need more guys.
We need more people.
Girls and humans.
Let me ask you, Laura, this term, National Autism Strategy, that sounds, I have to say, kind of airy-fairy to me. You know, it's sort of vague. We have some people saying, nope, screw that, Medicare. You know, that's what we need to do. Right. And then there are other people who are saying, hold the phone. We don't, for example, some self-advocates feel very strongly, look, don't tell us we're sick. We are not sick. Yes, we need support, but F you, I don't need to go to the doctor for my challenges, right? You know, so, I mean, getting people to even agree, for me personally, as long as people are getting help, I don't care what silo it's coming from.
I'm the same way. I want to talk about the whole. So you mentioned three things. There's the Medicare for Autism angle. There's the National Autism Strategy movement, and then there's the National Disability Strategy movement. Yeah, and I've been thinking a lot about this lately. Oh, sorry, just to go back to Ting Ting. Alberta's services used to be better. I'm not sure that they still are. The press conference that I'm talking about was like 10 years ago.
A while ago. And beauty's in the eye of the beholder.
The grass is always greener, right? By the time you move your family there, yada, yada. But to go back to all of these different angles, listen, the movement for a national autism strategy has been going for close to a decade now. And I support it, and I make no apologies for supporting it. Speaking, again, just as me, not as president, I'm totally cool with a national disability strategy too.
Yeah.
And if the folks from the Medicare for Autism group ever get the changes that they want, I will high five them and dance at their party.
Absolutely.
This isn't a competition.
No.
And I've been thinking a lot about, this is going to sound really corny, but something that used to be on my mom's fridge. She used to put little quotes and newspaper clippings, right? Hi, Mom.
Yeah, go ahead.
And it was a simple saying, and it's funny because we're sitting by candlelight tonight, but it said, it's not necessary to blow out someone else's candle to make yours shine brighter.
Yeah.
And so while those that believe that a national disability strategy is the way to go for it. Do that. Advocate for that. We're going to advocate, some of us, for a national autism strategy. Please don't try to blow out our candle.
Yeah.
You know, when folks advocated for a national dementia strategy, I didn't say, you're discriminating against me. Because that's not what it was. Like,
so let me ask you why. A few days ago, you had a press release. I signed off on it. Yep. I should say we had a press release. I wasn't there. But you had a press conference with a senator, with somebody from CASDA, with an autism therapy service provider. And what did you say at this press conference? And why did you weigh in when we made such a big frickin' deal about saying we're not going to weigh in because we don't have the resources or the time or the expertise, nor have we done our due diligence in terms of researching national, federal issues, so we're not going to weigh in, but we weighed in. Oh, there's my 15 minutes, but answer the question.
Oh, geez. Okay, fine. So I will say that, you know, as an organization, we've tried for a long time to stay out of federal politics. But this year, we really saw the autism fight in Ontario jump into the federal sphere. There were people across Canada who heard about what was happening here in Ontario, who heard about our fight, and were demanding to know from our federal leaders, what are you going to do about it? And other organizations out there, CASDA and others, were, I thought, doing a really effective job at doing all of this. But then a lot of OAC members as well were saying, hey, we want to get involved in the federal election. And they didn't wait for our permission.
Yeah.
They just started doing it, which is totally cool. That's the way we do things.
That's the way it should be done.
If you want to go show up at an event where Andrew Scheer is and give him a piece of your mind, do so peacefully, and rock on. And if you want to go crash Justin Trudeau's party and, you know, and wave to him as he gets off the bus and say, dude, what are you doing? And if you're Miko and you want to go get a selfie with Jagmeet Singh, knock it out of the park. Like, it's great. So things came together really fast last week. There was some outreach from CASDA, from Senator Munson. And if you haven't learned about Senator Munson, he was the one behind the 2007 Senate report, Pay Now or Pay Later. He spoke at the amazing Ottawa march in March for autism, and things came together. And so we penned a letter to Justin Trudeau because while the commitments from the other major political parties are not all 100% perfect, the Liberals had been conspicuously silent on a national autism strategy, which was really peculiar for a party that had passed a resolution at their policy convention a couple of years ago, who had said that they were going to do this, and in their platform, there was nothing.
Crickets.
Right?
Crickets. Well, it's interesting that, do you recall just a few months ago, the feds made a big deal out of a big announcement for the autism community.
Remember how wound up we all got?
And we were all like, oh, here it comes, here it comes, here it comes. And what was that announcement? Rob Ford. Doug Ford is an asshole.
Well,
that was the announcement.
And it was a re-announcement.
It was a re-announcement,
yes,
of money that had already been announced, of a project that had already been created. And, you know, we know our premier is falling short.
Yeah.
You know, so wow, you know, like and how opportunistic was that? To jump on our community pre-election season and on a nothing announcement.
Well, you know, if you're going to make an announcement, if you want to come to Ontario and crap on Doug Ford, hey, I got no problem with that.
Go ahead.
But if you could make a commitment of some significance to the autism community while you're at it, that would have been great.
Mm-hmm.
So there's been sort of a cascade effect. The letter led to an impromptu press conference on Friday, and Senator Munson attended, and I spoke, and reps from CASDA as well. And that letter and that event led to our good friend at Global TV, Travis Danraj, getting a question into the Liberal Party about, hey, are you going to commit to a national autism strategy?
Mm-hmm.
And while they weren't able to get Trudeau to speak to it on camera, they did get a statement back from the Liberal Party, which you can find on Travis Danraj's Twitter account. And I think I also posted it in the group. It starts off with some platitudes about, how hard it is for parents and children with special needs. It talks about their previous investments of $20 million and a strategic fund and the National Data Report and the child disability tax credits and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then finally, they get down to taking some shots at Doug Ford. And in the very last sentence, when they talk about we'll continue our record of partnership, and they say this includes working collaboratively as we have always done towards a national autism strategy. Is that a win? I don't know. But the chatter on Twitter in response to that today, I think, put some additional pressure on them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, lest we be accused of attacking the Liberals and not attacking anybody else, and Craig, this is for you, I want to make some comments about the other parties and their platforms as well.
Okay, quickly, because we went past our 15 minutes.
Oh, did we go past our time?
And way past, and
Okay.
we still want to go through 3 more items.
Okay, so I will just briefly say this. The Conservative platform commitment to $50 million to consult on the development of a national autism strategy leaves me underwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
Consultations have already taken place. They've included autistic self-advocates. They've included all of the relevant stakeholders. There is a blueprint. What we really need to do is press send and go. Mm-hmm. The Greens have been fairly consistent on their support for a national autism strategy, although it didn't appear in their platform this time. There is a really clear statement from Elizabeth May, a number of statements that she's made in the House of Commons on Autism Awareness Day and even on Budget Day, saying, hey, why isn't a national autism strategy here? So I feel like they are with us. And then lastly, the NDP on page 63 of their platform are the only ones in their platform to come out and strongly say that we will develop and implement a national autism strategy. And they go into some detail that will coordinate support for research, ensure access to needs-based services, promote employment, and help expand housing options. And there again, you hear those federal issues where there can be some leadership from the federal government. So that's a summary of what's happened. I think what we want to do is push all of the parties as hard as possible to make some kind of statement about a national autism strategy or about autism services, because once those statements are made in the election, of course, what do we do with those statements, Karen? Mm-hmm. After elections?
We follow up.
We do, and we hold them accountable. So, we don't want to let them get away with not saying anything, and that's why we were kind of calling out the Prime Minister, because I feel like we could get him to say something in the last couple of days. Yeah. And if he wanted to say something about all disabilities as well, that would thrill me. But the idea is to get the commitment. And again, it's, everybody is free to advocate for what they want. The CNIB is advocating for specific things for their community and a strategy. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's awesome. There's glory enough for all.
So let's move on. Let's come back down locally.
Sure.
So we just, CUPE averted a strike in some very, very intense negotiations.
Way to go, Laura Walton. You're my hero.
And we were going to have a Facebook Live the day that they announced their strike, which was a surprise to me. So we had to cancel the Facebook Live. Laura has assured me that we'll meet again, and I hope it will be sooner than later, so we can backtrack over what happened and what her point of view is. Mm-hmm. But dot, dot, dot,
dot, dot, dot.
in
Dun,
the
dun, dun.
horizon. What's on the horizon there, Laura?
Well, there are two other unions that have contracts expiring, and it looks like the next one that's going to move to strike votes is my union, the Ontario Secondary School Teachers Federation. So that's high school teachers. And at some point after that, the elementary teachers will be in a position to strike as well. So listen, it's quite clear that education is an absolutely explosive issue in this province right now. And while I don't like strikes, I've had to cross picket lines as a student. That was weird. My mom was an administrator during the college strikes in the 1980s.
Yeah.
I understand how extraordinarily disruptive they are to families, and even more so to families of kids with special needs. But we, I think right now, are in a fight for our lives when it comes to the quality of education in Ontario. The impact of the first round of changes to class sizes has been devastating and measurable. And so this isn't going to be pretty, but I think this is a fight for classrooms where our kids can not just survive, but maybe actually thrive. Because right now they're barely surviving.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And
not just barely surviving.
They're getting hurt.
They're getting hurt.
They're getting lost. They're getting excluded. They're getting off school property.
And I don't think anybody has the statistics on this, but there are parents who are pulling their kids out of school just to make sure that their children are not living lives of high distress. And that is a very, very sorry state of affairs.
It really is. And it's something, I've had this conversation with parents who have come to Canada from other countries, or parents who have a kid with a new diagnosis. And if they have money, it breaks my heart. But I find myself saying to them, look, if you can afford private school for the sake of your kid, do it. I'm a public school teacher. It shouldn't be that way. The other thing, and I've looked up some numbers on this, the number of kids transferring to private schools is on the rise, and the number of parents choosing to take their kids out of the school system entirely and homeschool them instead is on the rise.
Yeah.
And while that may meet the needs of those individual children, and I would never condemn a parent for doing what's right for their kid, what it does is
it does their dirty work for them. That's right. It means that schools don't have to provide service.
Well, and
it's like, well, if they're not going to come, we don't have to provide it. Good, phew, got rid of that kid.
Yeah. There's some people debating in the chat section here that I don't think are debating anything about what's being said in the live video right now. So can I encourage you maybe to take those conversations into chat and then leave space for people that may have questions. But it's getting a little nasty, and I'd like to just remind people to be kind to one another. It is absolutely okay for us to disagree.
Yeah.
Okay? You don't have to pound on somebody until they submit and say, oh, you know what? Your position was completely right and I was completely wrong. It doesn't. Yeah. We're in. It drives me crazy that the autism community fights itself as much as it does, when really I have nothing against the people that are advocating for a national disability strategy. The only bone I have to pick is please don't crap on those that are advocating for something else. I won't crap on you. You go, you advocate for that. You have your reasons, and they're good. And then there's other people that want something different, and you don't have to blow out someone else's candle. Yeah. It's not necessary.
Well, the honest truth about the OAC is that on our board and on our board of directors and on our executive, we are a group of people who have very, very different political backgrounds.
Yeah,
and I can tell you
and me in particular.
Yeah, in particular, polar opposites. Polar opposites. And we try very hard to be nonpartisan. Obviously, our colors show, but we try hard to be the people that politicians are willing to talk to.
Well, that's the
We
other
want
thing.
to be approachable. We want to be, I'm not saying reasonable, you know, I'm not saying pushovers, but we want to be grown-ups. We want to be adults, and we want to deal with stuff. I can tell you also for a fact, Laura and I fight. Laura and I have had some fights.
Yeah.
You know?
I love when you call me out on my crap.
Yeah,
though.
but we're okay with that.
Yeah.
You know, even, and maybe it'll take us a day or two to blow things over and we have a different point of view. Now, I'm never going to tell you what we fight about because that's between her and I.
The funny thing is I can't remember.
Yes, because it's never important.
Because we fight like guys. We go at it and then we're like, yeah, let's have
because
a beer.
it's never important because what is mixed in with that is the fact that we are living very high stress lives and there are gaskets that have to be blown sometimes.
Yeah.
And because we trust each other, we show an uglier part of ourselves to each other. And it's, I think, only two autism moms, forgive the way I described it, but only two women who live the lives that we have lived can accept our ugly side, you know? And this is also why I am often the peacemaker, or I attempt to be a peacemaker on our page, because I fully respect and understand that we all have those points where we blow. And to remind people to please, please try not to take it out on the page, because other people are reading what you are writing and it affects them. It
does.
Affects their lives. It affects their emotions.
And I see this happening again where there's tension between A for A and other groups. And I want to encourage people to take those conversations somewhere else, or I dare you to remember that you don't have to engage in those conversations. It is okay to say, you know what, there's some people over there that are advocating for this. We're not about that. And you don't have to yell at each other. But there's something so ironic about social media because, of course, we use it in the OAC, right? Facebook and Twitter and our website are our main tools. But if it weren't for my work on the OAC, I would be off Facebook in a heartbeat.
Me too.
Except to communicate with my families and share cute dog pictures with Elsbeth.
Yeah.
If you're watching. Because what it does is it encourages this binary thinking. It's yes or no. When in fact, and particularly when we're talking about issues of autistic self-advocates versus clinicians versus parents, it's not as simple as binary, yes, no, one is right, one is wrong.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're both a little bit right and we're both a little bit wrong, and I'm right about this, but you're wrong about that. And it's much more subtle than that. So if we could please get off of those conversations and try to talk about the things that unite us. And I want to go back to something that that Jennifer and a couple of others mentioned, and this is why I'm
we
worried
want to
that
swing back to the strike.
Well, yeah, but we're
possible.
also losing things in the threads because people are getting into arguments. So quit it, guys. Knock it off. Don't make me use my teacher voice. I will point at you and lower my glasses. So stop with the infighting. So the question is about special services at home, and the short answer, you're not going to like. There is no news about special services at home. I can tell you that a number of individual advocates and organizations have been pushing really strong about unfreezing SSAH. Please feel free to reuse that hashtag, unfreeze SSAH. We need to keep the pressure on. And I think one of the places where disability communities can come together is that fight for special services at home, ODSP, and passport funding, and that's where I'm really looking to other disability groups for guidance about how to come together and advocate for that. Can I just take 30 seconds to tell you about something that David said to me the other night?
David Lepofsky?
Yeah. So if you don't know who David Lepofsky is, Google him. In the disability advocacy community, he's kind of a big deal.
He's the bomb.
He really is. And he's the one that got the Ontarians with Disabilities Act passed. He had a huge hand in the Accessible Care Act that just passed federally, and he kind of helped get people with disabilities into the charter. And I was asking him the other day about disability-specific advocacy, like a national autism strategy versus a national disability strategy. And his answer was really wise. And he said, look, there's obviously times where it makes sense to advocate for all disabilities. on issues where you all have something in common. Like you all want to be in the Charter of Rights. You all want to be in the Ontario Human Rights Act. But there are also times, and he used himself as an example, where he wants to advocate for better training for teachers of students who are blind. And so that there are better standards. There is nothing wrong with disability-specific advocacy. What we need to do is look for opportunities to come together where we can, and then wish each other well when we're advocating for what we know. I don't know anything about spina bifida. I haven't got a clue about cystic fibrosis. I have no idea how I would advocate
That's the
for a
tricky
kid
thing.
who's tube fed.
That's the tricky
It's not
thing
my
for
thing.
me too. Very much the tricky thing, because I barely feel qualified to advocate for my own child, as he's a very sophisticated little fella, and has many needs. Some of which I'm very happy to say ABA is a great resource for him, and he has many other supports that have frankly nearly bankrupted us. So
Same.
I don't feel qualified to speak up for another person's child or another adult with different kinds of challenges that I haven't even imagined. But that doesn't mean I don't support them. I certainly support all of us. All of us must have equity. All of us must be treated with dignity and respect.
We all need to fight barriers.
Never underestimated, you know? Can we go back to the strike, because we're now at an hour and 9 minutes?
Oh Lord, okay.
And I wanted to do just an hour, and there's a few questions I also wanted to read. So we know that there's a strike vote that's happening. What do the teachers? Are you privy? Of course, I know you are one of them.
I am one of them.
What do you want, teacher?
Oh, we want all of the things.
What do you want? What are all the things that you want?
So I am actually going to refer you guys, because I haven't had time to do all of my studying, but there's a post I put up earlier with OSSTF's press release from today. And what they're saying is that they're going to be starting the strike votes and expect to be finished those votes by, I think they said November 17th. But the other thing that they've done this time around that's quite historic, normally governments and school boards and unions negotiate in private, right? There's this understanding that you don't go to the media and talk about what you're asking for at the bargaining table. Because this round of negotiations is so particularly toxic, OSSTF a couple of weeks ago came out with the unusual step of saying, you know what, we're going to release our briefs. We want the public to know exactly what it is that we're asking for. We're not afraid of it. They've never done that before. And it's highly unusual. So if you scroll down to the post where I've got OSSTF's press release, towards the bottom of it, and I'm just finding it now, you can find the link, here it is, bargainingforeducation.ca. And you can actually see what it is that OSSTF is asking for. I can tell you, just as a guess, as a lay member of all of this, that the big one really is about class sizes. The change this year from a high school class average of 22 to 22.5 has caused chaos in the system. And the current plan from the Ford government is to take those class sizes all the way up to 28. So that means it's going to get like 10 times worse. So you can actually click on this website and you can see their latest proposals. And I'm not going to try to speak for them and go through all of this right now. But I think that's really interesting, is that you can go in and actually see what they're negotiating for. And I think they've also published, sorry, it's not working well on my telephone, but they've also published the briefs of other negotiating partners. So I can tell you, this isn't about money. We're not, like, I'm paid well as a teacher. It would be nice if my cost of living increases were comparable to, say, members of provincial parliament who increased their housing allowances by 20% this year. But I can come off that high horse and say, I didn't go into teaching for the money.
Right.
I went into it because I want to work with kids and have an impact. But I can't do that if my classroom is so full that there's kids sitting on the floor.
Yeah.
And sitting on ledges in the corner. And if I don't have enough textbooks for every kid in the class, and if I have so many kids with so many different needs that I can't meet all of them, so I just teach down the middle, and the kids at the edges, our kids, fall through the cracks.
Yeah.
So what this is really about, and CUPE led the charge, is this is a fight for the heart of education. And it's about, I think, real systemic change that needs to happen. And the conversation about kids with special needs is part of that, because, I mean, just on a basic level, how could it be good for students with autism if we have 10,000 fewer teachers in the system?
Yes.
In what universe is that a good thing for our
10,000
kids?
futures and potentially 10,000 children entering the school system at once.
Many of whom didn't have their needs met in the OAP because it was thrown into chaos by she who will not be named, but whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not bitter.
Yeah.
The wine's kicking in.
Let's wind down.
Great.
Let's wind down. I have a couple of really wonderful questions, and they open up even more.
Oh boy.
Right? So
You're trying to wind me down,
I know,
right?
I'm trying to wind you down. But I thought they were provocative and interesting. So Carla says, depending on what goes down with regards to true needs-based therapy, worst case scenario, do we need a legal battle? Is this not a human rights issue when waiting for or denied proper scientific-based therapy?
Mm.
So here we go. Do we protest or do we sue?
Yes.
Yes.
There's a place for both, but let me add a caution when it comes to legal advocacy, because it's sort of a double-edged sword. If you fight a legal battle for disability rights and you win, of course, you set a precedent that helps everybody else rise.
Mm-hmm.
But the opposite is true. If you lose, your loss becomes a precedent that can be then used to smack down other people with similar claims.
Yeah.
I would say that I note with great distress that in the last few years, the Ontario Human Rights Tribunals have been no friends to our community.
Yeah.
Something else that David said the other day that
We're going to do some more talking about this, by the way.
Yes, yeah.
With we've got some lawyers lined up.
Yeah.
And everything takes longer than I need it to, but I do have some people who are experts on going to the Human Rights Tribunal who are willing to talk about the process.
Well, it might be interesting to include somebody like David in that
in
that live, because he worked as a Crown lawyer.
Yes, exactly.
And actually, turns out was really good friends.
You better be there, because I'm not smart enough to talk to David, so you better be there.
Oh, sure you are. Sure you are. David's a funny guy.
He's amazing.
But what's interesting in the Small World Department is that he was a Crown attorney he was a government lawyer for the Ministry of the Attorney General at the same time as the Weinberg case was going up, and was really good friends with the lawyer that was fighting against the Weinberg family. So when I found that out, I was like, what do you mean you like him? But it's lawyers. What he points out, though, is that it's not enough to just sue when injustice happens. Yeah. He talks a lot about the need for getting the right case with the right facts. And so, what you want is a situation where you've got a kid that's severely affected, that's nonverbal, that was excluded for no reason, that did that. And if you don't have those perfect facts, then sometimes things don't go quite your way. And the Auten case that fought for Medicare for autism, mind you, it was very, very early on, was a pretty good example of that. So legal advocacy is great, but it's treacherous, just like political advocacy. We have pitfalls too.
Plenty of them. This is a really long question, so I'll try to abridge it. Sherry, this is the last question. Sherry is a self-advocate, and she said, I would like to ask what are their plans, what their plan is 20 years down the road, which means they're the government, when all this is really when all of this is really going to catch up with them.
Yeah.
We are at the 1 in 32 rate now, and that number is only going to increase. Factor in all of the children who have not received the services they require in order to be as independent as possible. Will there be enough people to even serve our population?
That's the capacity issue.
There is no such thing as HFA.
High functioning autism.
The better one is able to function, the more risk they assume. Are we setting up an entire generation to be dependent on a system that keeps them living in poverty, choosing between food and housing? If they don't support autistics in earning income, they are doomed to a life of trying to manage their self-care on $1,200 a month. More must be done to assist autistics in this capacity and not assume we are unable to work or only capable of working service jobs. We need real and meaningful employment opportunities. Does this government truly understand what is at stake? Powerful words.
Man, I want to put this person in front of a microphone. Sherry, you are a powerful advocate, and you've gotten right to the heart of an issue that has baffled me for years as we do this fight, because what we're constantly doing is we're dealing with politicians who think in denominations of 4 years, right? That's how long it is between election cycles. And so you have to catch them at the right part of those 4 years. And then you have to hold their attention. And then if a new group comes in, you got to start from the beginning again. And I can't tell you how many times we've been like, walking in the door going, okay, we're going to brief a new minister. Here we go. And you're like, do they know anything about autism? Do they not know anything about autism? Here we go. And so the political reality of having elections every 4 years is completely at odds with the type of long-term thinking that you're talking about and that is so necessary to dealing with issues like autism that require vision, that require that you see beyond the end of your own nose, that it isn't just about children, that these children grow up, and they grow up a hell of a lot faster than you might think. And yeah, they need homes and they need jobs and they need to be welcomed in their community. And I don't want tolerance of people with autism. I want inclusion and acceptance and celebration. I want them to have jobs that are meaningful for them. And so trying to get governments to understand that is really hard. And all I can tell you is that, I mean, we try to put it to them in terms that that they understand. It gets tacky sometimes, right? Like, I don't like saying that, for every $1 that you spend on a child with autism, you'll save $7 in social services later, because it sounds like our kids are some sort of commodity that can be traded on the stock market, and they're not. They're human beings. Yeah. But on the other hand, that stat is also true. So, if you're speaking to somebody, like the head of the Treasury Board who has a background in finance, you need to speak that language. If you're speaking to somebody who has a background in social services, then you can speak to their heart and you can show, you have to use so much of with a politician is like reading up on them before I go into the room, finding out who the hell they are and where they've come from, and then trying to find that connection, and then trying to get them to see that big picture. But it's so hard. Can y'all please stop fighting about ABA and whether you're in favor of it or not? Just quit it. If you think ABA is good, way you go. If you hate ABA, okay. But you know what? Guys, how many times do I have to say this? What happens online right now is that you're literally triggering each other's amygdala, right? So if I say something that threatens your worldview, your fight or flight reflex kicks in.
Oh yeah.
And if then I try to come in and say, but wait, I have all these facts, it's like you're Teflon and the facts bounce off you. You're not going to convince each other. Just walk away. It's okay. We believe in different things. Peace.
On that note,
Peace.
Debate is healthy. Debate is good.
It is, but no one to
also
stop.
counting to 10. Pull back from the keyboard.
Yeah.
Take a deep breath.
Yeah.
And think about the language that you're using.
Yeah.
Think about the fact that you're not just arguing with one person. You are a whole bunch of people are reading what you write. None of us are perfect. We all make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we choose the wrong adjective and we hurt someone's feelings.
I know.
And
I
some
used a word earlier that bothered somebody.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And some people really purposefully go after each other.
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to do? We can't control that. We can't police the internet. All we can do is say we're doing what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
We hope that we presented this well for you. We hope that you find it helpful. Your journey is your journey.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're willing and able to contribute to the OAC, we're grateful for your help and support in this work. And that's it. We really do send everyone our very, very best. Mm-hmm. To your family, to your spouses, to you. Whether you like us or not, it's okay. We're cool with that. We're just going to do what we do. That's all we can say. We do what we do.
You do you. We'll do us.
Yeah.
And like I said, wherever victory is found, whether it's found through the courts, whether it's found through provincial political advocacy, federal political advocacy, the Medicare, I'm so done caring.
Yeah.
And it's not about credit at all. It's just like, could somebody please get to the point where people with autism have the supports that they need to lead
to thrive
happy
in life.
Lives.
Yeah.
And then I'd like to just walk my dog.
Yeah.
And maybe read a book.
So have a great night. We went a little bit longer than I had hoped. Like I said, I hope this was helpful. Have a wonderful night. Thank you, Laura.
Leah. All right.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks for the wine.
Until next time.
Cheers. And
Ciao.
next time,
Okay.
Scones.
Scones.
That's what the ladies
Next
in
time.
Ottawa do.
Yeah. Bye.
All right, guys. Take care. Good night.
Good night.
Num num num.